Good morning, everybody. Right? You know, you feel it, you believe, huh? Yeah. Right? Oh, there's that coffee. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Good morning, Karen. You are first. You have reclaimed your throne. Hiya, Redneckonomics. Good to see ya. Howdy, Daniel. Good to see you. I am doing wonderful. I hope you are doing wonderful as well. Hello, Matthew. Hello, Black Uni Gryphon. What up, Mike? Coffee time indeed. David, what's up? I don't know, you were close enough to fourth, David. What's up, Chris? Hi, Frederick. Happy Thursday, everybody. You know, it's weird. Apparently, 0 people are watching. So thank you guys for chatting, although apparently, according to the YouTube thing, loads slow. Tells me 0 people are watching. Obviously, that's not the case. What's up, Stacy? Good morning. Susan, good afternoon. Steven, thank you for the shout. Karen, thank you for the shout. So we're at 20. Did I see the new Democracy Now! Video? I did not. No, there's a show today. There's not a show tomorrow. We don't do a show tomorrow. Which, by the way, Daniel, happy early birthday. We don't do a show on Friday. Well, the podcast comes out on Friday. So the podcast comes out on Friday. So we won't be streaming Friday. So we're wishing you a happy birthday now. What's up, Dan? You came on, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. But good to see you. You are welcome, Daniel. Once we're at 30, we will dance like soldiers in the battlefield. To quote the Vandals. Somebody has a loud car alarm. I don't know if you guys heard that. It was, we have a lot to talk about today. Yeah. Oh, the song's called Red on the Head. Oh, I get it, Dan. Cool. I was like, is that a YouTuber? I wasn't sure what that meant, but I get it. Ah, got it. That is cool. That is synchronicity. If you want to talk about something, send it to me. We are over 30. What's up? Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. I am Ron Placone, your host. Welcome to the chaos, where we all get our news together for the first time. Huh? We're all seeing this for the first time. We're going over it for the first time. And if you guys want to talk about something, tweet it to me. That's how it works here. You tweet me something at Ron Placone, and that's how we build the show. Let's see. Guys, we're going to start off with something fun for the Thursday, as it's our last show of the week. Now, you guys know me. I am a millennial. And, you know, a lot of times millennials, people say we have it tough. People say that we actually have less than our parents do. That it's harder for us to buy a house, and it's harder for us to raise a family. Why? Because living wages haven't kept up with inflation. In fact, they're not living wages at all. Most millennials are working multiple jobs. A college degree is almost worthless, depending on the field, and in most cases, that is the case. And we have crippling amounts of debt. Well, it turns out, according to courts, we're just totally looking at the analytics wrong. And in fact, millennials, we're not worse off. We are rich. Can you believe it? I woke up today with a new strut in my step. Turns out I was wrong all this time. Millennials are rich. This article is from Quartz.com, who typically craps on millennials, and this article is no different. But let's check it out. Let's find out how rich we are. Actually, millennials may be the wealthiest generation. This is written by Allison Schrager, And check out this photo. Look, this is all these scantily clad girls being all millennial-like. This is just the same as those articles that would crap on the baby boomers, and they would have a picture of a girl, in a tank top or something like that at a concert. It's the same thing, spanning the generations. Look, if there's one thing we know will always be the case, it's that women have boobs, and sometimes they dress appropriately for the temperature. Those harlots! All these girls! That's what this is. That's what this article is. All right, so let's go into this dumb article. All right. In popular imagination, millennials are stuck in the prolonged state of financial adolescence. Guys, it's all in our head. That big-ass number of student loan debt, you're imagining it. You're imagining those zeros. Really, it's only like $20. They have no car, no house, no spouse, and are overwhelmed by students' loans. Also in their imaginations. It's all in their imagination. You don't see that car out there? It may be their fault, but they are worse off than Gen X. It may not be their fault, but they are worse off than Gen Xers or baby boomers, argues recent coverage of a study by the Federal Reserve Board. You know, the people that are in charge of money and how it works. The study estimates millennials, the generation born blah, 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 have less wealth, incomes, and trapping of adulthood than other generations did at their age. Other things that indicate this, participating in the world around you and talking to millennials. But this is different. It could also be argued that millennials are in fine shape, maybe even richer than previous generations. Gee, how is this? But they have just chosen to invest in different assets. I get it. It's just we've invested in different assets, like, not having them. I never thought about it that way. Wow, this article has changed my mind on everything. This may even be a smart strategy. Baby boomers and Gen Xers grew up in a different economy where people needed different assets to survive and signal success. Assets like, a roof over their head, or enough food to eat, or a wage that paid them enough to cover their expenses. We don't need those assets anymore. Now we just need avocado toast. I feel so much better about everything, you guys. All right, so let's look at the world has changed, and if you measure millennials by old metrics, they look poor, but they might just be well hedged for the new economy. Okay, all right. All right, so they talk about advances of... All right, so as the economy moves away from low-tech manufacturing and into high-tech and services, the returns to increased levels of education increased. College graduates can expect to earn about $1 million more in their lifetimes than Americans without a degree. Those statistics are often very skewed, by the way, and don't take into account the type of degree. All right, or to put it another way, lacking a degree poses serious costs. One could argue that's not necessarily true. High school graduates face stagnating wages and higher rates of unemployment. Spoiler alert, so does everybody else. And there's a lot of other statistics out there that indicate that a college degree doesn't do all that much for you in today's world. Which is true. I have a master's degree. All right. Oh, let's go back to the article. Given those economic shifts, paying more for education through college loans, it may be a smart strategy because it may be the best way to protect your future earnings in a changing economy. Taking on debt to fund more education. Again, they're basing this on one study that says people with degrees can expect to earn $1 million more in their lifetime than people that don't. This is a skewed study. Because, first of all, most people don't even earn $1 million in their lifetime. There are tons of other studies out there that indicate that an undergraduate degree is essentially worthless in most cases. Now, are there particular fields you can go into that still have high earning potential? Sure. If you're going to be a doctor, if you're going to be an engineer, or if you do an apprenticeship, like being a carpenter or being a mechanic or something like that, yes, you have high earning potential. By the way, you know what? That doesn't require a college degree. So these statistics out there that say earning some college degree is a license to make money are at best dated and at worst just cherry-picked statistics that makes it borderline propaganda. We don't need to dive into one individual study to know that the evidence is out there, and most millennials know it just by living in the world. So no, you're not guaranteed $1 million more in your life if you have an undergraduate degree. That's absolutely ridiculous. The fact that this article is parroting that nonsense in 2018 is sad. But let's go on. Millennials are not only more educated, they are also more urbane. The changing structure of the economy rewards living in large urban areas. That's because that's the only place where jobs are in most cases. Most millennials have to live in cities because that's the only place where jobs are. And usually they get a job that doesn't pay them enough. And they have crippling amounts of debt. My sister lives in San Francisco. She can tell you about what's going on there. The people that are there, they're there because they have to go there for jobs. And yes, many are well-paying. A lot aren't. People don't have the option of staying in their small town anymore as often because a lot of those manufacturing plants are closed. You know, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 90% of my friends, even more than that, don't live there anymore. And Pittsburgh's a major city, by the way. But why don't they? Well, because it's not what it was in the past. Years ago, Pittsburgh was one of the biggest urban hubs in the country. It was one of the most productive cities in the United States, which a lot of people don't know about. But that's the truth. And it was still a big business center, even after the mills had closed. And there was a time where you could join a union, get a high-paying job, where with one salary, you could afford a house, and you could afford a family. With one salary. Those days are long gone. Long gone. Why? Because the unions don't have any power anymore. And this article is saying that, oh, well, here's this statistic that says a college degree gives you this big earning potential. No, a college degree doesn't give you a whole lot. It's basically a barrier to entry at this point. And what people do is they give you this college degree, they give you this unpaid internship, they throw you with crippling amounts of debt, and then if you don't have the years of experience they want to see, they don't frickin' hire you. All right, investing. All right, so here's that bogus investing in different assets. The Fed estimates millennials have slightly lower median net worth than Gen Xers had, but that doesn't mean millennials are actually poorer. If you have less money, it doesn't mean you're actually poorer, because there's wealth in other things, like love. All right, this is worth more because of the extra education. Okay, they're going back to that one statistic they cite that's bogus. Okay. Overall, millennials have less debt than previous generations. The fact that this sentence was printed in an actual media outlet is insane. They carry, oh, here's their argument why. They carry lower credit card balances at the same age, $1,800, compared with $2,500 for Gen Xers. The Fed speculates the financial crisis scared millennials from over-borrowing. Oh, I get it. So generations before us that could borrow more so they could get houses and a quality of life, we're not able to do that, so it makes us richer. Hey, this is logic that makes the Bible look intellectually astute. Hey, rich are the meek. Being poor is a gift. Guys, here's my question. Fellow millennials, or if you're maybe just a millennial in spirit, or if you just appreciate millennials, whatever. I know there's people of all ages on the stream. What are you going to do with your newfound wealth? I had no idea I was rich. Turns out I just wasn't looking at it the right way. That debt is for my higher education. That gives me millions of dollars and more earning potential. I have a master's degree. Using myself as an example, what did that master's degree give me a license to do? It gave me a license to teach. And I did. I taught at a community college. I made more money to perform at one college than I did teaching at a community college for an entire semester. The way they pay adjuncts in this country is nothing short of criminal. You don't even get paid minimum wage when you add it all up. And you can see articles out there where there's adjunct faculty across the country that are homeless because they don't make enough money to survive. Or they have 2 or 3 different jobs. I did adjuncting on the side. For me, it wasn't a big deal because I was a road comic. I did it online, and I did it on the side whenever tour dates were slow. So for me, it was just a little extra income. For the people that did it full time, I really felt sorry for them. By the way, that's another fun fact. You can make more money, at least in my situation. I know not every situation is exactly the same. I was able to make more money as an opening act road comic. I wasn't even headlining at this point. I was an opening act than I would as a full-time faculty. How do I know that? Because it was offered to me. And I looked at the numbers and I turned it down. Because it would have been a pay cut. And it's way less fun than doing stand-up, I'll be honest. But I was looking at it all wrong, you guys. I was like, and again, that's a fun statistic I love to remind people of. I got paid more to perform at one college than I got paid to teach at a college for an entire semester. Anyway, what are you guys going to do with all your newfound wealth? I'm going to buy a boat. I've decided it's time. I'm buying I didn't realize I was rich. I was just scared. So I'm going to buy a boat. What are you guys going to do? What are you guys going to do? I'm guessing they might have a unique definition of wealthy. Yeah, you know, a unique definition of wealthy, meaning we're wealthy in companionship and love. I'm going to buy a first and second home, Ren Economics says. Good for you. Edwin, you're going to park your boat inside my boat. Lori's going to leave the country. Where are you going to go, Lori? Are you going to go to my crush city, Manchester? If so, I'm coming too. Let's see. Didn't you see Steven Pinker's TED Talk? I did not, David. Don't you know everything is great now and getting better all the time? The numbers don't lie, Romplicone. Chris Wynn says, my sister ran up about $100K in debt getting a doctorate in 6 years of college, and that was almost 10 years ago. Student loans are even worse now. That's true. My student loan debt, Red Economics points out, my student loan debt prevents me from completing my degree. Plus, the longer I don't pay it, the more debt they add. But, Red Economics, didn't you see the article? That's all in your mind. That's all in your imagination. You're imagining this. See, what happens is we just need to borrow more. It's all up to us. See, the Gen Xers, they just borrowed. And we're not doing that. We actually have less debt, Red Economics. It's all in your imagination. Get out of your imagination and into the world. And Chris Wynn points out, the stock market is booming. Nathan's buying an island, and he offered me to park my boat there. Thank you very much. Ron, I think you need more hugs. Probably we all do. We all need more hugs, but I'm bringing this up not to have a pity party for me. I'm just calling the world for what it is. There's no reason to have a pity party for me. I'm a comedian. I get to be creative for a living. As long as I can do that, I'm happy. But I see the world around me, and I know that this article is complete nonsense. And I know that just saying that a degree is some license to make millions of dollars more is skewed at best. We all know that. That's tremendously false. I think the rise of suicide jokes being the norm online, I can't speak to that one way or another. I mean, I'm a comedian. I've always been around suicide jokes. Is a sign of a stressful life millennials and Gen Z will have. We see the future we've been given, and it's not bright. Yeah, exactly. Abso-freaking-lutely. You know, it's so funny. I was in the car with my dad recently, because you guys know that my grandma passed recently. So I was back in my hometown of Pittsburgh. And we were in the car together, and it was it was me and my sister and my fiance and my sister's fiance, and we're sitting there, and my dad goes, "Yeah, this is the first generation where the past, where you don't have it as good as the generation before you. You guys, it's not as easy for you to get jobs. It's not as easy for you to buy a house. You can't do what my generation was able to do." And he's going on and on about it. And finally, I just said, "Dude, you don't need to tell us. We know. We lived through it. We know this." And then everybody laughed because you got to see the humor in it. And by the way, kudos to my dad for owning up to it. A lot of people, not everybody in his generation, but a lot of people in his generation won't admit to that. A lot of people in his generation look at bogus articles like this Quartz article, and they say, "See, millennials are fine." So kudos to my dad for at least owning up to it, that, yeah, you guys don't have it as good as we did. You're the first generation that doesn't have it as easy as your parents in the contemporary U.S. Jordan points out, my parents would never admit that. Yeah, this article's so goofy. I thought we'd have a fun time laughing about it. But, guys, I'm stoked for my boat. Ron, do you have a ranch for all these ponies I just bought with all this newfound currency? Daniel wants to know. Yes, Daniel. We'll buy a ranch. I mean, what's stopping us? We'll get a ranch. Black Uni, I got my degree in 2001. Didn't help me at all get work in my field because it all got outsourced. Well, that's the other thing. One of the things for Gen Xers, and we don't have time to look up a bunch of statistics here, but a lot of Gen Xers, they were told, get into computers and you're fine. And then, what happened was the bubble burst. Everybody got into computers. And now, techs, like there was that generation where being a basic tech, you were a dime a dozen. And you were sold this idea that going to computers, you're good. That was true for a couple years. Then it went away. My family is mostly comfortable, strict Catholic, and they think everyone is great with Trump in office. My family's Catholic, too. They do not think everyone's great with Trump in office. They're pretty progressive. We just disagree on a few things. Natural Progressive, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. I think it's from yesterday, but you sent it at the very end. I didn't get to give you a shout-out, so thank you. Baby Gerald, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Ron, love your show. Everyone here should check out Richard Wolff's latest Democracy at Work, The Great American Purge. It explains so much of how we got here. I love Richard Wolff's podcast. Sometimes I only listen to his preamble and not the whole thing. But I do love Richard Wolff's podcast. That's a fantastic recommendation. I learned so much in that freaking podcast. He is a very, very intelligent man. If you're not familiar with Richard Wolff, he's an economist. And, man, he really has a way of breaking it down. He's great. All right, let's move on to other things. Anyway, millennials, we're rich. We didn't know it. How did we not realize that? And here's a fun question for everybody, and we're going to find out the answer. I don't know the answer because I haven't read this article yet. It was sent to me. Who's more likely to be audited? A person making 20 grand or 400,000? If you claim the Earned Income Tax Credit, whose average recipient makes less than $20,000 a year, you're more likely to face IRS scrutiny than someone making 20 times as much. How a benefit for the working poor was turned against them. Interesting. When Natisha Smick, 28, filed her family's taxes in January, she already had plans for the refund she and her husband expected to receive. Mainly, she wanted to catch up on her credit card debt, and she was also pregnant with their second child, so there were plenty of extra expenses ahead. Well, she's a millennial. Good news for her. All of those expenses are just in her mind. Since Schmick, who is taking classes towards a bachelor's degree, and her husband, a chef, together earned around $33,000 in 2017, about $2,000 of that refund would come through Earned Income Tax Credit. Okay. While she lives outside of Los Angeles, and her husband only make about $33,000 a year. Wow. That's brutal. It wasn't until 4 months later she got her letter. The IRS informed her she was being audited. By this point, she was home with her baby. She sent it all off, and she hoped for a quick resolution. So budget cuts have crippled the IRS over the past 8 years. At least that's what we're sold. Enforcement staff has dropped by a third, but while a number of audits have fallen across the board, the impact has been different for the rich and poor. For wealthy taxpayers, the story has been rosy. And it's a different story for people who receive the Earned Income Tax Credit. So here's the graph. If you make $10 million and up, audit rates are down 52%. Oops. It's down 6. Is that? I can't even. Wow. I gotta lean in. I can't tell if that's an 8 or a 6 on the screen here. That's an 8. So 82% for 5 to 10 million. Down 70%, 1 to 5. Down 71%. But it's up 36% for Earned Income Tax Credit recipients. Wow. How does that make any sense? I mean, think about it. They have to pay. When you audit, there are people that are paid by the IRS to do that. So if somebody earns $33,000 a year, how is it worth it to audit them? That makes zero sense. Like, that just makes no sense at all. As someone who has a family, has children, has dependents, they make $33,000 a year. You really think they're gaming the system in some big way? How is it worth? Like, it just doesn't make any sense that it's worth it going after that person. But they do that. Why? Because you want to nickel and dime the poor. That's how the oligarchy works. Let's nickel and dime the poor, and it's just corporate welfare for the rich. And that's even showing in our tax returns. That's just unbelievable. It doesn't make any sense to audit a person like that. But according to this ProPublica article, it's happening. You know, I've been a road comic most of my professional life. And the first few years, I really wasn't making much money. I still don't. You know, I'm far from a rich man. But I've always said over the years, like, I was like, you know, once they're auditing me, our country's in a whole lot of trouble. Well, looks like they're auditing all of us. Looks like they're auditing all of us. I mean, what's it saying about the state of this country when they're auditing somebody who makes $33,000 a year and has a family? What's it saying when they're auditing more people that make less than $20,000 than people that make millions? It's not saying our country's that desperate. It's saying our country is that corrupt. It's time for a freaking revolution. It's been time. This is disgusting. Wow. Well, keep that in mind when you make even with Uncle Sam this year. Here's something fun. A high-tech robot at a Russia forum turns out to be a man in a suit. We trick them all. State television praised the modern tech despite photos revealing an actor in a costume. There you go. You can see the dude's neck. A high-tech robot shown on Russian state television has turned out to be a man in a suit. Russia 24 praised the ersatz android during coverage of a youth forum dedicated to robotics, boasting that robot Boris had already learned to dance and he's not that bad. But sharp-eyed bloggers were dubious. The Russian website T-Journal listed questions about the robot's performance. And why did the robot look like a person would fit perfectly inside of it? Later, photographs of the robot posted on social media showed the very visible neckline of a person in a suit. Boris turned out to be Alosha the Robot costume made by a company called Show Robots. It is robot. No, I think that's it is a robot. There you go. This is Good job, Russia. Check out this robot. I think it's a dude in a costume. It's a robot. Oh, and by the way, Jeffrey, who sent this article, said, is this a metaphor for Russiagate? And I guess depending on how you look at it, one could make the argument of maybe. They hijacked an election. You know what? It turns out it's just a dude in a suit. That's a fun one. And guys, we have a little bit of breaking stuff here. And, you know, I don't really like to go to Fox News often, but they were the only place that I found talking about this. Newt Gingrich, no, I'm not being considered for White House Chief of Staff. So Newt Gingrich was meeting with Donald Trump. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich on Thursday, and I believe that's today, because this was published 2 hours ago, adamantly denied that he's being considered for White House Chief of Staff, shooting down speculation that surged in the press after he was spotted visiting 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue a day earlier. Speaking on Fox and Friends, Gingrich said he and his wife, Callista, were merely there looking at Christmas decorations. He noted the press spotted him, and that promptly jumped to, oh, are you being interviewed? No, I was actually just wandering around looking at decorations, he insisted. I was there as an American citizen, looking at one of the most famous of American buildings. And then he took out a flag and started saluting it and said, give it up for the troops, try the veal, I'll be here all week. Newt Gingrich. All right. Sorry the margins are a little shitty on this one. Speaking at Fox and Friends, all right, so we already... But that doesn't mean the loquacious Washington figure doesn't have some advice for President Trump as he scrambles to find a replacement for outgoing Chief of Staff John Kelly. I don't think he can ever impose order on Donald Trump. He is a unique entrepreneurial personality, Gingrich, a Fox News contributor, said, but added the Chief of Staff pick must have a very strong-willed personality. A weaker person will lose control of the building. Okay, so have someone who's strong-willed. And according to him, he is not being interviewed. But speculation's out there that he is. So that's our breaking right now. Newt Gingrich, by his own admission, he wasn't being interviewed. He was just looking at the decorations. He's like, nope, I just wanted to see the Washington Santa celebrate some of these buildings as a proud, hardworking American. Newt Gingrich. I have a feeling that he was being interviewed. I don't believe him. I think that maybe he's being considered for the position or being considered for something else. Now, there's some other speculation out there that Mike Pence might not be the running mate in 2020. That's just online speculation that I've seen. I don't know if there's anything to it at this point. I don't think any of us do. Based on that Oval Office performance where Mike Pence just slept the whole time, maybe that's the case. Maybe Donald was like, Mike, you got my back? And he's like, I'm tired. And he's like, yeah, dude, I need you here. I'm going toe-to-toe against Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Okay, I'm going toe-to-toe against Nancy Pelosi, sort of. I mean, Chuck Schumer's completely, I mean, at least Nancy, you know, if someone said pay a compliment to Nancy Pelosi, because I'm not a fan of her, but if someone was like, say something nice about Nancy Pelosi, I'd say at least in that Oval Office thing, she stood up to him a little bit. Chuck Schumer was completely... I mean, Chuck Schumer looks so pathetically cowardly. The only thing Chuck Schumer did in there, by the way, which someone pointed this out, we did a clip on this on the Jimmy Dore Show. We talked about it here yesterday. Somebody on Facebook pointed this out to me. Something that I forgot to bring up and that we didn't bring up on the Jimmy Dore Show either was how he kind of just condescendingly took a dump on the states of Indiana and North Dakota. At one point in it, he was just like, well, when the president's bragging about winning North Dakota and Indiana, we're in a lot of trouble, blah, blah, blah. Which, you know, I get where you're going. Those are typically red states. Although, Indiana went for Obama at one point. Indiana is becoming more of a swing state. So good job, Chuck Schumer, showing more of that coastal elitism that is turning off people by the busloads. Good job, Chuck Schumer. That's the only time he shows any stones, is when he can shit on what he presumes to be red states. How disconnected can you get? This is coming from the guy who explains attending a baseball game, thinking most Americans don't know what it's like to not be in a private box. And this is a leader for the working people. That's what they sell us. So anyway, getting back to the topic, I don't know, maybe Donald Trump is considering a different running mate. And maybe that's why he was meeting with Newt. Although, according to Newt, he just wanted to celebrate the decorations. After all, it is the holiday season. Now, I mentioned I don't like Fox News much because I'm human. But here is another reason why Fox News is really missing the mark all the time. Here's something they did as a recent. RT called them out for it. Really fucks that one up. News outlet refers to the U.S. president as David Trump. Here we go. Boom. There it is. A head-scratching gaffe from Fox News graphics department has left people perplexed as to how the TV station could mess up the name of one of its favorite subjects, U.S. President Donald Trump. On Laura Ingram's show, the panel was discussing Time Magazine's off-controversial Person of the Year award when a graphic showing the 2018 finalists incorrectly labeled the U.S. leader as David Trump. David Trump is his good twin, actually. That's what a lot of people don't realize. See, Donald Trump is the plutocratic billionaire that sold the lie that he was somehow going to be a populist and has not delivered on that at all. Now, David Trump, on the other hand, is his often neglected twin brother, who is quite the progressive, fancies Medicare for all, fancies living wages, wants to end fracking. And, what David did was instead of just being a plutocratic narcissist and starting scam universities and engaging in racist housing policies and calling for the heads of innocent people for a murder and never apologizing for it, he went a different route. He joined the Peace Corps, saw the world, really learned about things around him, and decided he was going to use his privilege for good. So he currently runs a few nonprofits dedicating to helping homeless and ending poverty around the world. He's not a big fan of Bono. He says that guy's just a neoliberal, which is true. And David Trump, I'll tell you, that guy's a good dude. And I think he deserves the award. And if such a person existed in the world, I would vote for them. But they don't. It's just a screwed up graphic. Fox News. Boom. David Trump. Fox News. We report, you decide. Like, is his name actually David? In alternative fact land, I suppose we could say maybe. Good job, Fox News. You have failed again. But guys, you know what? It is the holiday season, and it's important to recognize that it's the holidays for everybody. Even the police. David sends this. Corrupted police department acquires a fleet of surveillance drones. Because it's the holiday. It's the time for giving. New York, the police department has given itself the gift of a new surveillance tool. The NYPD, with a history of illegal spying, will be armed with 14 new aerial drones. The New York Civil Liberties Union is deeply concerned about the plan. The NYPD's drones are outfitted with cameras equipped with sophisticated technology and 4K resolution. The mere presence of these police cameras can create a chilling effect on people exercising their rights to free speech, protest, and other lawful activities. From the bedroom window to the busy street, these devices will be able to capture anything the officers want to see. The NYCLU said, given how easy drones make surveillance and the NYPD's troubling history of unlawful spying, it's critical that the policies that govern their use put strict limits on when and where they can be deployed. Or they just shouldn't have them. Why do they need all of these drones? The NYCLU is concerned that the drones will one day use facial recognition technology on the deployed drones. In the plan, the department did end up including a prohibition on using facial surveillance on drone footage. But the final policy includes a loophole for this ban in the case of a public safety concern. So all you need to do is say it's in the name of safety and you can get away with it. Much like the Patriot Act, much like everything that justifies limitless surveillance and limitless spying. If you say it's in the name of public safety, you can get away with it. So you can use facial recognition if you say it's in the name of public safety. When you can say that? Whenever you want. Police will be able to say it's in the name of public safety whenever they frickin' feel like it. What does that mean? They can use facial surveillance via drones to spy on people. And this is a police organization that has a reputation for illegal spying. They also have done such award-winning policies like stop and frisk. The NYPD, now they have drones. And you know, if they're real good, maybe Santa will give them a drone that can hurt somebody. Maybe that's what they'll get if they're real good next year. This is a disturbing development, not just for the obvious privacy-eroding dangers, but all of the subtle ways it will oppress and influence people in their everyday lives. How will we act differently, or how will our behaviors or thoughts change when these are always buzzing overhead? Orwell. We're living in it. You know, it's... I gotta be honest, I try really hard not to overgeneralize, not to have a bias. Although whenever somebody says, not all cops are bad, tell them to stop talking, because that is an elementary straw man argument, because when you talk about the problem with law enforcement, you're talking about a systemic problem. You're not talking about an individual problem. You're talking about a systemic problem. So saying, not all cops are bad, that's like when you have an E. coli outbreak being like, not all the lettuce is bad. Some of the shreds are actually quite good. No, it's a systemic issue. It needs a systemic solution. So saying not all cops are bad, that's a straw man. But anyway, I try really hard not to overgeneralize. And at my grandmother's funeral recently, my dad gave the eulogy. He did an amazing job. And he told me after, now keep in mind, my family's fairly progressive. You know, we disagree on a few things. I'm to the left of them, but they're pretty progressive. You know, half voted Bernie, half voted Hillary because they thought Bernie couldn't win, even though they preferred Bernie's policies, but whatever. So anyway, my family's fairly progressive. My dad tells me, hey, so somebody said that my eulogy, I reminded them of George W., which just hearing that made my stomach turn. And, you know, I was just like, wow, why did they insult you at your mother's funeral? And he said, well, they meant it as a compliment. And, you know, I kind of laughed and said, gee, you know, that hurts, you know, making it clear he wasn't a fan of Bush. But I said to him, don't tell me who said that, because this is my grandmother's funeral, and I appreciate all the people that came out, and I don't want to think less of anyone here right now. You know, I just don't want to think about it right now. I really don't. So don't even tell me who said. I don't want to know. But then in my mind, so there's a family friend who's a cop. I don't know him all that well. He grew up with his dad, and my grandfather were very close. Because my grandfather, when he was alive, was a volunteer firefighter, and so was this guy. And this guy's son went on to be a cop, and they've just been friends in the family, you know, forever. And I assumed it was him. I have no idea if it actually is. I'm recognizing my own imperfections as a human. He might be progressive for all I know. I have no idea this guy's personal politics. I've only ever said hello, how are you to the guy. But recognizing my own imperfections as a human, I assumed it was him. Because the one clue my dad gave me was he was like, well, it wasn't a family member. So I knew, you know, I have some cousins that are a little more conservative leaning, but they know where we're at. You know what I mean? Like, they know where we're at, so I'd assume they wouldn't make a comment like that, because they know where we're at politically. And they especially know where I'm at politically, because they, like, some of them still come to my stand-up shows, which I wonder if they enjoy any of it, but I appreciate them being there, you know, showing their family support. But I assumed it was the cop. I was like, oh, I bet it was him. And I could be wrong. Just like yeah, anyway, it's not important. I just thought it was kind of a funny aside. I'm not a perfect man. I admit my own biases. He could be, I mean, he might be the biggest lefty. Probably not. But you never know. And yeah, I drink water out of a mason jug. All the time. Unapologetically. But I was like, I bet it was the cop. All right. So, you know, happy holidays, NYPD. Good job. All right, let's get a little bit of good news to end the week, shall we? I know it's not Music Monday, but this has just been announced. The inductees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Radiohead, Janet Jackson, Stevie Nicks lead the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2019 class. Why are you excited, Ron? You don't really care about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You're not big on those type of mawkish, you know, things. You're not a big fan. And I'm not. That's true. But The Cure, long overdue. The Cure, yes. I'm pretty sure they've been eligible for a few years now, and they got it, and they've deserved it for a while, and The Cure freaking got it. And yes, I am happy about that. Even though I try to say I don't really care about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, at this point it's just the Pop Music Hall of Fame. There are genres that are blatantly underrepresented. And a lot of the stuff I like, a lot of the punk rock I like, a lot of the post that is blatantly underrepresented for whatever reason. But The Cure getting their due, and I'm happy about that. And you know what? Shout out to Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks, first of all, well-deserving, but also Stevie Nicks is the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. So I think that's really freaking cool. Artists are eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 25 years after the release of their first album. Kraftwerk, Todd Rundgren, Rage Against the Machine, Rufus and Chaka Khan, MC5, LL Cool J, John Prine, and Devo were all nominated but failed to make the cut. All of them do deserve to be in there. Todd Rundgren, I'm surprised he hasn't been in there already. MC5, abso-freaking-lutely. LL Cool J, yes. John Prine, yes. Devo, yes. So they probably will make the cut in the future. You know what's crazy is wondering what's going to happen as the years go by and less big juggernaut names are eligible for the Rock and Roll. They all got in. Who's going to be next? I mean, we live in a niche universe now. We have really entered a postmodern era unlike any other, where it's all about just niches, right? I mean, we all listen. There's still artists out there that are making it. You can still make a living as an artist, but you have a niche following in most cases. You are a niche thing. Even a lot of the music that has more mainstream success, a lot of it is still very much a niche thing. And the only exceptions to that are usually big pop stars. So what's going to happen with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I mean, it already essentially is the Rock Music Hall of Fame, or the Pop Music Hall of Fame, excuse me. That's just going to keep going. Because, you know, now most rock outfits, most indie rock outfits, I mean, you only get so big, and then you've kind of plateaued because there's only so many people listening to so many different things. I mean, once you reach the level of, like, an Arcade Fire or a Spoon, like, you can't... Like, most acts these days, they don't go past that. And it's not because, you know, they're not as good as the acts before them or anything like that. It's because it's a different world now. You know, we live in a world where people consume music differently. They get music differently. Radio's role has been completely gutted and changed. You know, people don't get music the same way. They don't buy it the same way. Like it's just a completely different market now. Whether it's better or worse, well, that's in the eye of the beholder. You know, we could debate that all day, but it's just different. So it's not that there's just a handful of arena rock acts and then everybody else can't make a living. It's though there's a lot of different acts at different levels, and a lot of people can make a living, but nobody can get to the level of, you know, we're probably never going to have our next Beatles. It's probably never going to happen. It'll happen on a micro level, if it happens at all, and I don't think it'll happen at all. Just an interesting thing to think about. We can talk about it at the end. But there's one more thing I wanted to mention. And I know we didn't get to everything we wanted to get to today. We never do. That's part of the fun of this show. But here's what I wanted to end on. And it also falls under the category of good news. Sometimes, for our own sanity's sake, we need to end on something positive. Tulsi Gabbard says she is seriously considering a 2020 White House bid. Please consider it, Tulsi. Representative Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat of Hawaii, which, by the way, tying it back to the last article, when Tulsi was in our studio over at the Jimmy Dore show, me and her dude, I don't know if they're married or not. I'm pretty sure they're married. Yeah, it's her husband. Me and her husband talked music. Anyway, Tulsi Gabbard, who has made recent trips to Iowa and New Hampshire, confirmed Wednesday night that she is seriously considering a 2020 White House bid. Gabbard, 37, considered a rising star in the Democratic Party, depending on who you ask. There's some people on the establishment end who are not big fans of her. Was one of the first female combat veterans to join Congress and was a high-profile supporter of Bernie Sanders. During an appearance on Wednesday night on MSNBC's Hardball, Gabbard was asked if she is planning to run for president, an office held by another politician with roots in Hawaii, former President Barack Obama. I'm seriously considering it. I'm concerned about the direction of the country. Tulsi, I know you probably won't see this. Nor do I think my opinion matters to you. Nor should it. But please run. Please run. Tulsi Gabbard. All right. Tulsi Gabbard, first of all, she's a progressive. She's good on the issues. She's a female. She's young. And she's a veteran. That has huge, wide crossover appeal. And if she ran with Bernie Sanders as her VP, which that's what I would prefer. I would prefer Bernie as her VP over vice versa. Some people are saying she'll be Bernie's VP. I think it should be flipped. I think she should go for president. Bernie should be VP. And just being objective about it, I don't think she would lose. I think she would win. I think she could beat Trump. She would inspire progressives. She would inspire unlikely voters. She would inspire the heartland because she would be able to speak to them in a true populist message that they are receptive to, because Bernie pulled it off. The heartland is susceptible to that. They are into it. And she's a veteran. Just looking at it objectively, that has huge crossover appeal. And I think there's no way Trump would beat that. And also, she's incredibly well-spoken. She would mop the floor with Donald Trump in every single debate. And Bernie Sanders would mop the floor with Mike Pence. One of the many things Bernie Sanders could do that Tim Kaine couldn't. Stand for things and beat Mike Pence in a debate. So what do you guys think? Do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree? I'll go with you guys to end the show. Tulsi Gabbard, State of Music. Throw whatever you want out there. Zero Divisor, she's the best. Let's tweet Get Your News On with Ron to Tulsi and show support, guys. Edwin, that's a great idea, guys. Please do it. I would love it if you did that. Tulsi would help bring peace to the world. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that Tulsi Gabbard would. She really would be. Again, she's good on the issues, and she could really bring the message of peace because she's a veteran. She would say, "Look, we need to end this. We need to end these wars. I'm a veteran. I'm not against the troops. I'm a veteran." But we need to end the wars because it's a waste of resources and it's putting our men and women in harm's way when it's not necessary. All right, let me... Oh, we have a lot of... Okay. Thank you, Watson. It helps government spend less saving money for wealthy. Your thoughts on California taxing text messaging. I haven't looked into that yet. I saw a headline, but that's all I've seen so far, Watson. I've not looked into it yet. I need to look into it more. So I unfortunately, I did see that headline and I was like, what the fuck is this? But I didn't look into it further at the time. I need to look into it. So I don't know if it's just kind of hyperbole or if there's something to it. So stand by is my short answer. or to make a long answer longer. Krillin, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. Ron, which is your favorite Cure album? Did you ever hear of Carpenter Brute? I've never heard of Carpenter Brute, and you just saw them open for Ministry. I'm taking you like it since you're giving them a shout-out. I will look into Carpenter Brute. My favorite Cure album, I know this is kind of a vanilla answer, but it's because some of my favorite songs are on it. Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. First of all, The Kiss, one of the greatest opening tracks. I mean, just the opening to that album. The dun, dun, bum, 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 bum. Dun, 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 and then Robert Smith just wails on that lead guitar. I am such a geek, and now everybody knows it. You already knew. I mean, come on. You guys, you know what this is. But anyway, The Kiss, one of the best opening title tracks that whenever they talk about great title tracks in rock and roll albums, it is never mentioned. And it should be, but it is never mentioned. And then, you know, One More Time is on that album, and I have One More Time tattooed on my arm. So obviously I'm a big fan of that song. So I gotta go with Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. Catch. It is an album that has a running theme, but is completely versatile all at the same time. And so many of the tracks on that album are so underrated because they're overshadowed by the obvious hits. They're overshadowed by Hot, Hot, Hot. They're overshadowed by Why Can't I Be You. They're overshadowed by Just Like Heaven. All great songs. Don't get me wrong. All phenomenal songs. I love all those songs. But a lot of those tracks, you know, go under the radar, and they're amazing songs. That whole album, start to finish, is incredible. And it's long. It's like 17 tracks, and it is incredible start to finish. There was a period of time in high school, I listened to that album nonstop for months, and that was all I listened. Every morning, you know, this was back in the days, portable CD players. I'd get on the school bus, I'd listen to the Kiss Me album all frickin' day. And it was the highlight of my day, because I didn't like high school much. All right. Jeremy Chase sums it up when it comes to Tulsi. She surfs, end of discussion. Boom. Watson, thank you very much for that generous Super Chat contribution. Mueller lied U.S. into war. Yes, he did. He's a lib hero. Right now, he is. Tulsi on with Jimmy Dore. She won't run third party. Yes, that's true. She is a former military, and being progressive is a facade. I have no reason to believe that's the case with her. If you have any evidence of that, please do share it. Being a progressive is a facade. Do you mean in general, or do you mean for her? If you're saying for her, I have no evidence of that being the case. If you do, please share it. Now, in a third party that could hold her feet to the fire, she has my vote. I'll vote for her wherever she runs. You know, you got to make up your own mind. I'll vote for Tulsi Gabbard wherever she runs. I've heard some critiques against her, and all the ones I've seen have been unfounded so far. I have yet to see a critique against her. Well, I shouldn't say critique, but one of the reasons to not support her have all been debunked that I've seen. If you know something I don't, Watson, please do share it. Tweet it at me. We can talk about it on a future show. But as far as her being a phony or whatever, I don't have any evidence of that being the case. Corey says the most anti-war candidate in history. That wouldn't be a hard bar to reach. So I'm with you, Corey, because she would naturally just reach it. Scott says, same. I'd vote for Tulsi, whichever party she runs with. And she gets visible support from the ruling party, by the way. Yeah, she does. Well, that's the thing. And Zero Divisor points out she has never said much regarding religion. She seems more like a closet atheist. I agree, and I know her religious background has been something people have talked about as a concern, but that was how she was raised. I mean, that was like what she was brought up with. You know, we don't have time to dive into that all now. And some of you guys are saying some Cure stuff. I won't let that go under-recognized. Love the surf guitar and Killing an Arab. I do too. That's a brilliant song. which is taken out of context often, especially in our contemporary society. They faced a little heat for that song. The Cure did. They had to have stickers on some of the Boys Don't Cry albums. Of course, that song is not actually suggesting violence. It's a metaphorical song that did not have any phobic messages, but due to our contemporary climate, it was an unfortunate title. Tim, Boys Don't Cry, beautiful tune. Come on, and a great album. That is just a beautiful, beautiful guitar rock album, garage rock album. Pornography, another great one. And Daniel points out that song is against violence, which, yes, it is. It's an anti-violent song. It's a metaphor song. And, yeah. Brian Jeffries, Ron, I saw Coheed and Cambria live, and Claudio played the guitar with his teeth. I'm familiar with Coheed. I haven't listened to them in a while, but I've heard that they're very badass live. I've seen them, but it was a long time ago, and it was at a Warped Tour. So it counts, but not really, So I've never seen them in a club show where they're really just doing their thing. Tim, I got to meet Robert Smith and get an autograph. I'm jealous. Tim, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. I'm going to meet him someday. I am going to meet that man someday. Actually, one of my goals in college, and I guess maybe it's still my goal, was I really wanted to write a rock biography with Robert Smith's blessing of The Cure. That was something I really wanted to do. Maybe they'll let me write a 33 1/3 book about Kiss Me. If it hasn't been done yet, it might have been. It might have been done. But maybe I got to look into that. Anyway, guys, we are completely out of time. Some tour dates, and Daniel gives a shout out to the Forest, which is beautiful. Some tour dates, ronplagone.com for all the dates. January, Florida, we're coming. Get your tickets. They're starting to move. Get your tickets now. Gainesville, Orlando, Jacksonville, Coral Gables. Do it. Florida, ronplagone.com for tickets. New Orleans, Pensacola, tickets available now. April, we're going to Texas. Tickets available now. We're finalizing a few dates, but tickets to Houston and Fort Worth are available now. May, we're coming to Utah, Salt Lake City. We're doing 2 nights in Salt Lake City. Grab your tickets now. And we just confirmed Boise, Idaho in May. Tickets will be available for that soon. And we're booking the rest of 2019 very soon. East Coast, we're coming. Colorado, we're coming. Northwest, we're coming. Midwest, we're coming. Chicago, we're coming. And we might be going overseas. If you want to support this show on the sustainability end, please consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/ronplagone. Give what you can level. You get all kinds of cool stuff. Guys, you are awesome. I didn't know so many of you were Cure fans. That makes me very, very happy. We'll talk more about music on Monday. We'll do the label thing for Music Monday. So get ready to talk about labels. We're going to talk about our favorite labels, our favorite record labels for the Music Monday topic. We'll be back on Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. You guys are awesome. Thank you for a wonderful week. A short week, but still a wonderful one nonetheless. I will see you all on Monday. The podcast drops tomorrow. It drops every Friday. If you want to hear some of what you missed, check out the podcast. And until then, stay safe. Have a good weekend.